So let's talk about something fundamental. How do we actually build our character? Today, we're going to look at two totally different ways to go about it. Two different blueprints for life. One is all about unwavering integrity, and the other, well, it's about being a little more flexible. Let's get into it.
And right away, you can see the core conflict here. On the one hand, you have rectitude. It's a perfect vertical line, straight, true, no compromises. And on the other hand, you have flexibility, a bent, crooked line. This really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? Are we building our lives on something solid and true, or on something that just bends under pressure?
You know, the main idea here is pretty powerful. We're all architects of our own character. So if we want to understand the different plans for a good life, we've got to start by looking at the tools we're using to build it.
And the most important tool in this whole philosophy is the plumb line. Now, this isn't just about making sure a wall is straight. In this metaphor, the plumb line represents a vertical, unwavering truth. It's that absolute standard of integrity that you measure yourself against. It's the ultimate guide for an upright character. Okay, so we've got our key tool, the plumb line. Now let's see how it gets used in two completely different architectural plans for life. We're going to break down the core ideas behind each of these competing blueprints.
First up, you've got the Plumbline of Rectitude. The big idea here is that virtues, things like honesty, justice, they're fixed points. They don't move. The source material makes this great point. If a carpenter's square isn't exactly 90 degrees, it's not a square. It's a broken tool. And the same logic applies here. A virtue that isn't true is basically useless.
And then you got the total opposite, moral flexibility. This is the belief that those same virtues can be adjusted, and maybe even should be, depending on the situation. It's the idea that, maybe honesty can be bent a little for convenience, or justice can be nudged for personal gain. It's the philosophy of that crooked line we saw a minute ago.
And when you put them side by side like this, man, the difference is night and day. For someone following the plumb line, truth is a fixed point. Decisions are based on principle. The goal is to build something solid, something that lasts. But for the flexible approach, truth is adjustable. Decisions are based on what's convenient, usually for a short-term win. They're like two totally different operating systems for how to live.
So what happens when you decide to build with a broken tool? Well, the argument is that the damage isn't just on the outside. It actually starts from within. It creates this fundamental flaw in the very stone of your character.
This quote just nails it. From this point of view, a flexible code isn't just a different option. It's a fundamentally broken approach. It's like trying to build a skyscraper with measuring tapes that give you a different number every single time. That building is doomed before you even start. And this way of thinking leads to some very specific dangers inside a person. First, you lose your moral center. Your passions and desires have no boundaries. Second, you end up with this split personality, right? You're upright in public, but flexible in private, so you never really become a whole, integrated person. And finally, using the language of the stonemasons that inspired all this, the Rough Ashlar, which is that raw, imperfect stone that represents us, it never gets smoothed out. It just stays unfit to be part of any bigger, important structure.
But the danger doesn't just stop with one person. The source material talks about something it calls the termite effect. It's this idea that one person's compromise can silently spread and start to weaken an entire organization, an entire community, from the inside out.
Think about it like this. What happens if you put just one soft, crumbly stone in the foundation of a building? Its weakness affects all the stones around it, and eventually the strength of the whole wall is at risk. That's exactly the kind of danger we're talking about with moral flexibility inside a group.
So how does this decay actually happen? Well, it usually follows a pretty clear path. First, the standards for entry get compromised. People get in based on who they are or what they have, not their character. Then, the internal standards start to erode. Rules get bent so you don't offend anybody. And before you know it, what was supposed to be a place of serious work becomes just a social club. And finally, the most critical step. Trust just dissolves. That mystic tie, that invisible bond that holds a group together, it just breaks because nobody can rely on anyone else's integrity anymore.
And that brings us to the final, really crucial choice. We've seen the tools, we've seen the blueprints, now we have to decide what kind of foundation we want to build our lives on and our communities on.
The choice is pretty clear, isn't it? It's building on solid rock versus building on shifting sand. Being true to the plumb creates a stable structure that's built to last. Adopting a flexible morality? Well, that's like building on sand. It might look okay for a little while, but the real question is, which one of these is going to survive when the storms inevitably come?
Now, it is so important to get this next part. This whole philosophy of the plumb line, it's not about being perfect right out of the gate. Nobody starts out as a perfect, finished stone. We all start as rough ones. The point isn't perfection, it's direction. It's about a consistent commitment to moving towards that vertical line of integrity, even if we stumble a bit on the way.
And so we're left with this really powerful final question. The argument here is stark. A building that's put together on a flexible, shifting foundation, it just won't stand up when it gets tested. So you have to ask yourself, and I have to ask myself, what am I building with? And when the storms of life come, when real scrutiny comes, is my building going to stand?